Well, hey everybody, welcome to the Seeing Ability podcast, where we're having a conversation about the world of families raising kids with differences. And that means sometimes we're going to be talking to an adult who grew up as that kid with a disability, a parent who has or is raising a child, or an extended family member, and a lot of people who support the community. It could be people in education, in the medical community, in nonprofits. Now, today, I'm really looking forward to having you meet our guest because it's one of my favorite things to do, which is shine a spotlight on the great work of the local nonprofit. We've got folks here from CKCT, Central Kentucky Community Therapies. Chelsea, Sarah, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks for
Thank
having
you.
us.
Super excited to have you. In a minute, Chelsea, I'll have you tell us about your formal role, a little quick overview of the nonprofit, and introduce Sarah, your guest. But first, as my listeners know, we like to just get to know you ladies. So we're going to do the Fast Five that's brought to us by my friends with Reliable Tech Help. So reach out to them if you've got tech frustrations. They're at 502-797-7399. Question number one, Sarah, we'll start with you. What's your favorite food?
Pasta.
Chelsea?
Donuts.
Nice. I'm getting hungry just listening to you two. If we got your playlist, Chelsea, what about favorite music?
Um, you know, at the end of the year, Spotify gives you a review of like your most listened to songs, and I am proudly one of the top listeners of Brandy Carlisle in the world.
Wow, in the world. Wow, I'm starstruck. Sarah, how about you?
Oh my goodness. So it's kind of all over the place. So I like a little like old school like R&B or hip hop, but then I'm also on this country music kick right now. So it's kind of
Okay.
all over the place.
All right, Sarah, we'll stay with you. What about something you're watching, a streaming show, a movie, a book you're reading? What are you enjoying right now?
So right now I'm reading like 3 different books at one time. But the one I'm reading right now is like a homeschool related book. Called The Brave New Learner, and that's kind of what I do. I don't have time to watch TV.
Reading 3 books at once, you're just making the rest of us feel bad.
Well, it's
Chelsea,
not
how
like I'm getting very far, but that's what I'm doing.
Chelsea, how about you?
I have just rewatched the entire Gilmore Girls series endlessly since it first came out. So that is always on my watch list.
Gilmore Girls, a special place in my heart. I love it. Okay, so what about a vacation spot? If we could just whisk you away to anywhere in the world, Chelsea, where would you want to go?
I went to Spain in undergrad on a choir trip, but I would like to go back to Spain without a bunch of college students and without like a strict schedule. So I would like to go back to Europe and just do it on my own.
Yeah, not only going to Europe, but without the strict schedule part is really important. I love that. Sarah, how about you?
So right now, I homeschool my son. So right now we're studying like London and England and all of that. And I was like, I would love to go there one day. So
Yeah, I mean, call it a field trip, right?
that's right. I was like, we might have to save up for a while, but yes, we might do that.
Yeah, I think it should be part of the curriculum. I love it. Okay, well, again, we're super excited to hear about your work. Chelsea, why don't you tell us a little bit? You're the executive director. Just give us the quick overview of what CKCT does and who you are, and then you can introduce Sarah and why you brought her on today.
Yeah, absolutely. So I started in this field of music therapy 3 years ago is when I opened my doors, and I started as an LLC called Central Kentucky Creative Therapies. And I started just doing music therapy and music lessons, and we've grown. We've added art therapy, equine assisted music therapy, music lessons, and the people who were coming through our doors really liked what we were offering, and they wanted even more. So we started offering inclusive, disability-friendly community services like homeschool co-ops, summer camps, movie nights, a community choir. And so I was like, okay, well, how do we make this accessible for families? I was like, okay, well, maybe a nonprofit route, so I still have the LLC, but we just launched the nonprofit branch, Central Kentucky Community Therapies. And so when did that start? Like last month? We're super new. So I just submitted my first big grant. We're planning a fundraiser, so I'm really excited to get started with that. And here I have Sarah. Her son started with me as a music therapy client a few years ago. And she actually homeschools her son. And we got to talking, and I brought her on to run the summer camps and the co-ops. And she is now officially on our board of the nonprofit branch.
Wow, fantastic. Well, let me ask you this. With music therapy and the type of work you do, obviously, when families have a kid with some type of difference, some type of diagnosis, they're having a lot of medical interventions. They're probably starting with some sort of traditional therapy type of modality, PT, OT, speech. Where in that process do you come into play in that succession of like services for kids?
Yeah, so we're not one of the top recommended things. You get an autism diagnosis, they say, okay, insurance will pay for ABA, or you get another diagnosis, they say, okay, well, go find PT and OT, you need to be in speech. So oftentimes when people come to me, they've exhausted a lot of other resources, and they were just not seeing the results that they wanted in more traditional therapies. And so they go online, they start looking for like, God, what can I do? We get a lot of people come through our doors from Facebook groups. Like, I'm in all the mom groups, the homeschool groups, the disability groups, and people saying like, God, what do I do? I've tried this, it's not working. And that's usually when a big CKC supporter is like, oh my gosh, you need to check out Central Kentucky Community Therapies. Like, that's who you need to go to. So word of mouth really helps in this field, since it's not something that's widely covered by insurance.
I find that a lot of our guests, especially, take for granted that our listeners have a geographical sense. So tell me the footprint of your services for people maybe listening from Murfreesboro, Tennessee, and they don't exactly know where Central Kentucky is.
Yeah, so we are in the Lexington, Fayette region. So, and we serve people in the surrounding areas. Sometimes I'll
Okay.
travel there, and oftentimes they'll travel here.
So, Sarah, interesting question for you related to that progression of finding services. You told me before we got on air that, unlike maybe some parents, you kind of had a background in disability advocacy and work. Tell us a little bit about that background and how familiar were you or weren't you with this particular type of services?
So my work background is I did job placement, job development for 5, 6 years for individuals who were blind or visually impaired. And then I did a lot of advocacy work for individuals whose rights were violated due to their disability. So whether it was a IEP violation or something like that. And then the last little bit of my work was a case manager for one of Kentucky's Medicaid programs. And interestingly, I didn't hear a lot about music therapy then. I really didn't. And then when I had my son and I was looking for something for him that, would benefit him, I knew someone who knew Chelsea. And that's how we linked up and got to know each other. So it took me a while to get to understand what music therapy was and how beneficial it is for the individuals we are serving.
Yeah, which is interesting because compared to the average layperson, you would think you, with your background of all people, might know more than the average
Yeah.
Joe. But the fact that you didn't
Yeah.
just goes to show you that in the world of therapies, we're probably still under known by a lot of people about the benefits of it, which is a great segue. I'm going to ask each of you to answer this separately. For folks who maybe don't know as much, or they kind of heard of it, but they've never really personally experienced it. Chelsea, tell us a little bit about the clients you've worked with, and where do you see like the changes being made when kids really get engaged with your program?
Yeah, absolutely. So in short, music therapy is working on non-musical goals, but we use music to do so. So people aren't coming to me to become fabulous musicians and become famous, singers on the radio. They are coming because they're working on social skills, emotional goals. Maybe it's cognitive goals in school, physical motor goals. So, but they're motivated by music naturally. So we use music to work on those goals. And the youngest clients I've worked with were less than a year old. And the oldest client I've worked with was in his 90s, hospice care, and I've seen everybody in between. So I think people often think that music therapy is just for kids, but I also see a good number of adults as well. And often the people that I work with have a disability or some sort of trauma history.
So tell me, whether you use their name for confidentiality or not, what's an example you can share, again, for people that are not super familiar with it, of a client you worked with? Where were they kind of before? And then how did music therapy, what changes did you see in them, and how did it kind of open things up?
So one of my favorite stories is actually about an older adult. So was doing my internship like right after COVID. So people had not been able to go into nursing homes, and this woman had not been seen by providers outside of the hospital for, a couple years due to safety reasons. But we were finally able to go back in, and I would meet with her every week, and I would sit at her bedside. She was on hospice care, and I'd sing music, and she seemed pretty, like, she didn't even know I was in the room, right? I was like, why am I coming back every week? Like, I don't know if this is doing anything for her. And then one day I was singing Peace in the Valley, and she started singing the chorus, and she had not spoken for a couple of years.
Wow.
And that was the moment, the repetition of the music and the consistency of somebody showing up every week who wasn't there to poke her and prod her. And the benefits of live music is I was able to loop that chorus that she was singing over and over again, however many times that we wanted to do that. But she started kind of perking up after that, and she would start talking and have conversations, and she would, if I made a mistake, she would like laugh at it, like, it's like something happened, and it took a long time to be able to see it, like many months. But then I was like, oh my God, music therapy works. Like, she's talking again. Like, how cool is that? That's one of my favorite stories.
I love that. In the realm of pediatrics, sometimes people are in certain therapies for a short window, sometimes for a long period, sometimes there's lots of change, sometimes there's plateaus. Have you had any pediatric stories where people are kind of running up against the wall with other things they're trying, and then somehow music therapy clicks for them?
Yeah, this one girl that I've worked with was in ABA therapy, and she's I don't want to say it wrong, a Gestalt language processor. So she kind of talks in whole sentences, but doesn't really understand necessarily the meanings of all the words. Really, really brilliant child. But she's really motivated by music, and she would sing all the time. Like, everything she said, she would sing. And so the mom was like, well, maybe we should try music therapy and see if we can, instead of her just kind of talking off in her own world, saying these same sentences on repeat, if she can start to have like interactions with another person and kind of understand what she's saying, right? Like, what the words actually mean. And she, just in a couple weeks of music therapy, the mom messaged me and she said, I have seen more progress in these like 3 weeks of music therapy than we have in a year of speech therapy, which I think just says volumes of the power of music.
Yeah, I love that. So, Sarah, for you, we haven't had a chance to hear the backstory. We mentioned that you have a child yourself. Tell us about your son, kind of the backstory of his challenges, and then how has music therapy helped him, and what changes have you seen with him?
So my son was born at 27 weeks. He weighed 1 pound, 11 ounces. He stayed in the NICU roughly about 12 weeks, give or take a little bit. And so when we brought him home, like, he didn't require very much, no oxygen, feeding tubes or anything. He was fine. He just was kind of little and just growing. But then when he was like 2, I noticed his language was not coming as it should, even at 3, even at 4. And so we did like speech and OT and PT and all the different things. And then that's when eventually I picked up with speech therapy, and music therapy. And that's when I noticed that his speech just started to improve when we incorporated the music. And, eventually we were able to phase that out, because his speech now, he talks nonstop. Chelsea will attest to that. I mean, nonstop. And
You have to be careful what you wish for, right?
right. I was like, man, before you didn't talk at all, and now you just talk all the time. No, it's fine. But now, now he's like playing music and he can play the piano and he's learning clarinet. And he woke up the other morning and said he wants to learn how to play the tuba. And I was like,
Whoa.
sure.
I can't help you with the tuba.
I was like, we'll get to that eventually. But, from my perspective, music just plays such a powerful role in developing their brains and how they can communicate and remembering things. Like if you put it to music, you can remember it. He can so much quicker. And that's what's really helped him the most with his speech,
Wow.
all of that. Yeah.
That's amazing. So you're telling me I'm going to have to bring in a sponsor called Advil for that the tuba player, right? All that music in the household.
Oh my goodness.
That's pretty amazing. Let me ask you, Chelsea, I can kind of hear with your answers a little bit of your passion of this field. What is it specifically about this type of work that gets you out of bed every morning? Why do you love it so much?
Or I happen to think I have the coolest job in the world, but my background, I've always been like a proud band geek. I just knew music was going to be in my life forever. And so undergrad, I did music education because I didn't know what else to do, and it was fine. I taught, I enjoyed teaching. And when I moved to Kentucky, I was kind of my first experience working with individuals with disabilities. So I took what I thought was going to be a temporary summer caregiving job for a then 13-year-old girl with developmental and intellectual disabilities. And that was 8 years ago. And she's still pretty active in my life. She had a sleepover just the other day. And I just knew, I was like, okay, I love what I'm learning about the disability field, but I really miss making music. Like there has to be a way that we can do both. UK has a music therapy program. And I was like, this is so cool. Like you're telling me I can like learn how to use music, which I just love, to help other people. Like get out of here. So yeah, I went back to school and the rest is kind of history. But I mean, it's the greatest job.
I love it. So, Sarah, tell us a little bit about your newer nonprofit. As Chelsea said, you're one of her bosses, the board of directors. What is your what does your board look like these days in the beginning of your nonprofit?
Well, it's brand new. It's brand new. So we have like 3 board members, and right now I'm just seeking their approval when I'm like, can I apply for this grant? Or like, what do you think of this idea? Like I said, I mean, it has been like less than a month. We are in the
So one thing I didn't ask yet, and people are going to want to learn more about what you guys do. What is your website?
It is www.ckctherapies.com.
Okay, so www.ckctherapies.com.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, fantastic. And so give us the 30,000-foot overview of like the current menu of services you guys provide.
Music therapy. I just hired an art therapist on Friday. So we will be adding that back on. It's been hard to find an art therapist. I partner with an equine nonprofit, and we do equine music assisted therapy. And then we do music lessons. And then we have all the community social things. So the co-ops and the summer camps and movie nights, that type of.
Wow, that's a pretty impressive list for you guys have been. How many total years from both the business that you had and now the nonprofit wing? How many years in total again?
3.
That's a pretty impressive menu of services. That's exciting. And so what was the evolution? Yeah, what was the evolution of the nonprofit wing of things? How did that come about?
It was, let's see, last summer, I think probably in July, I was talking with my wife about, I was like, man, this co-op's growing, and we just had like a great first year of summer camps. Like we completely filled out, we booked out. It was like our 3rd semester of doing community choir. I was like, I love that we can offer so many community things here for people who seem to be really loving it, because they keep coming back and they keep asking for more. And so we were talking, maybe this would be the perfect time to launch a nonprofit part of the business, so that
And nonprofit
Great.
mostly just to improve access and have funding for
Yep.
people who otherwise couldn't afford it, that kind of thing?
Because I've never turned anybody away due to finances. I will find a way to work on a payment plan, reduce their cost. You know, if you're a business person, that's not a sustainable business model, right?
Yeah.
So I want to be able to supplement, be able to give people scholarships for music therapy, art therapy, summer camps, co-ops. I want to be able for them to, come and join the choir, come to movie night and not have to pay for anything. And so nonprofit was just the way to go. So we did a fundraiser at the equine therapy nonprofit last fall and raised enough money for me to file for the 501c3. That took many months to hear back from the IRS. We got approval in maybe February or March, something like that. And that was not that long ago. So here we are.
So you're new enough that you probably haven't sat down and done like a 5-year strategic plan. But if we could just close our eyes and dream, where would you guys be a couple years from now?
In the fall, I'm hoping I am going to expand to the downstairs space of this office, and that's going to be the community center. So there's a kitchen down there. We'll do like a classroom area, and then we'll have like a big kind of community playroom, and we can do more services down there. Next year, our plan is to purchase the building. I've partnered with a mental health therapist. And so there's another office on the other side of our shared lobby. So our goal is to purchase the building next year and to have also a mental health therapy wing of CKC Therapies. And ideally, because it's hard for people to get access to these services, would be to have another location in a more rural part of central Kentucky so that people don't have to, drive 2 hours to come see us.
So you might be a new nonprofit, but it doesn't sound like you're new to the idea of thinking ahead and having a vision of where you're going.
I know exactly where I want to go.
So if folks are listening, what are the different ways the public that's hearing this, or especially a lot of our listeners are in this world, they're definitely advocates for people with differences. How can people help you guys? What's your biggest need?
Okay, well, if you go to that website that I mentioned, www.ckctherapies.com, there is a nonprofit page on the business. And that is where we've launched kind of our first just online fundraiser to help us raise funds to acquire the downstairs space, which will need to be like completely renovated. There's not even flooring down there.
Okay.
You need money for this.
Yeah. So donations are your biggest need.
Yes. Yep.
And then probably with it, since that has a construction element, could there be in-kind donations as well? People that work in the trades and maybe could donate some of their services, that kind of thing?
I would love that. We can take over the lease in August, and anybody who wants to paint or lay flooring or assemble furniture is welcome to email me.
And do you currently do you have plans in the future for any kind of volunteer engagement outside of just the board?
Yes. We rely a lot on volunteers for summer camps. Again, if anybody wants to contact me through the website if they're interested in volunteering for the summer, we will take
all the
volunteers.
And Sarah, the summer camps, is that part of your neck of the woods of group?
Yes.
Okay, so tell us a little bit about what those have looked like, and again, what do you see they do for the kids, and what do they do for the parents?
So this will be our second summer of summer camp. So last year we did 2 half days a week and filled those spots quick. And so time came around to plan for this summer, and I was like, well, maybe we should do 3 days. And then parents were like, can you extend the time? And I was like, sure. So now we're going like 9 a.m. to 1:30 to something like that. And then the biggest thing I noticed is, like we're all inclusive. So we want everyone to be included. We want everyone to feel like they're part of the group. So we plan lots of activities. We have different themes every day. And so I plan all of that. And we make sure that everyone feels comfortable. We have a space. If someone's having a hard time, they can go, have a quiet moment and regroup and come back, because we want everyone to feel included and part of what we're doing here. And I was telling Chelsea, I was like, I can actually see this going like 4 or 5 days a week, in the next year or two. So
When we have more
well,
volunteers.
more volunteers, yes.
I love it. I love it. Well, I want to ask you a question about one of your favorite topics, and that would be Seth. But first, we're going to take a little short break. When you have a kid who is different, all your ducks need to be in a row, especially your money. Cam Howell with Primerica knows the joys and challenges as he and his wife raise their medically fragile son, Brooks. Cam brings over 14 years of experience to help his clients be protected, have a plan for the future, reduce debt, and connect to resources. Get your financial house in order so that you can enjoy every moment with your child. Reach out today at 502-803-5075. And now back to the show. So Sarah, tell us a little bit more about some of the programs that Seth has been involved with and kind of what kind of changes you've seen in him again.
So he's done music therapy with Chelsea. And like I said, made great progress with his speech and just his overall like comfort level being around people is improved significantly. To, like I said, now he does music lessons, and he comes with me. That's why it's easy for me to do what I do right now with the homeschool co-op and the summer camp, because I just bring him with me, and that gives him a really good opportunity to be around other kids. So he's got friends. This is the coolest thing for me is, he's got friends who have disabilities, who don't have disabilities. And that, I think that's really good, because a lot of kids aren't around other kids who are maybe different from them. And I think it's really important. I think it's important to understand that we're all different. We all bring something to the table, and, he learns from them and they learn from him. And he always tries to include other kids. Like, I'm thinking of that one day he was telling one of our friends at camp, like they're more quiet and everything, but he wants to include them, and he tries really hard to include them. And I think that's really important for not just my son, but all kids to understand and learn from each other. And that's why I enjoy doing what we do here.
What a full circle moment, though, to think of
Yeah.
those early years and the struggles he had. And now
Yeah.
he's the one trying to include other kids. That's a big
Yeah.
switch, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty amazing. So what about people who are listening to this and thinking, boy, it's great for people in Central Kentucky, but I think my kid could benefit from something like that. And I live in a different part of the country. What advice would you give to them?
So if they're looking specifically for music therapy, they can go on the AMTA, American Music Therapy Association's website, and there is a list of providers in every state. It's our national board. I would recommend starting there. A lot of music therapists will also teach music lessons, and they're really good at adapting them. So, if your kid does have some sort of a disability and you think, God, I don't think they'd be able to play an instrument, find a music therapist who might be interested in teaching them adaptive lessons as well. We're really good at making it inclusive and accessible. In terms of the community aspect, I mean, the reason why I started CKC Therapies and launched the nonprofit is because I didn't see this already in existence in Central Kentucky. So I don't know if this exists elsewhere. But I think you can, what's the saying? Be the change you want to see. Nobody is stopping you from inviting other kids over or something, like.
So if somebody said, boy, I want to be like Chelsea and I want to get this going, I've got that entrepreneurial spirit, I want to be the change, how would they reach out to you if they want to pick your brain?
Go onto my website, and all my phone number, my email is on there, and there is a direct contact form, which will send me a direct message through the website.
Perfect. And we want to give us that website one more time. How do folks find you?
www.ckctherapies.com.
Fantastic. Sarah, this is a really overarching question, but I'll ask it for both of you guys. Just what overarching advice would you have for parents who are raising a kid with special needs and or disability differences of some kind? And right now, maybe they're caught up in the challenges and the obstacles and all the tough things they're facing. What advice would you have for them in any aspect of this journey that you've kind of learned through your own school of hard knocks?
So the first thing I would say is just be patient. Me and my husband were talking the other day. My son will be 10 in July, and we've noticed recently how much he's really starting to mature more. Like recently, we've taken him to things that in the past he probably would not have been able to sit through. Like we went Saturday night, we had to go to an awards banquet for my husband's job, and he sat there and he was fine, and he, you know, there was no issues or anything. And my husband was like, he's really maturing. And, you know, some of the things that we had to work through a few years back, he's able to do now. And I think that's the biggest thing is you have to be patient and you have to meet them where they are. So even when kids come to camp or homeschool co-op, I don't put a lot of expectations on them for, you know, like to do all the things. I meet them where they are and let them grow and learn at their own pace. And they will. It just takes time and patience and helping them work through all of their challenges and understanding they may not get to everything that you want them to do, but as long as they're making progress, that's what matters the most.
I love that. Yeah, and probably if someone had told you a few years back he would have sat through that award ceremony, you probably would have said they were crazy.
Yes, I would have told you, like, absolutely not. We're not going to make it through. But yeah, now I'm like, oh, okay, we can go do whatever we want. Yeah, like we can do whatever now. Like,
yeah. So two really big takeaways. I mean, having patience overall and meeting them where they are.
Yeah.
I love it. Yeah. Chelsea, what about you? You've been around a lot of parents and you've kind of had a front row seat to observing this journey. What advice would you give to parents who are struggling right now?
I can't say enough what the good things you just said is meeting people where they are at. There's actually a music therapy specific term for that called the ISO principle. You know, if you go in and you see a kid and he's, you know, about ready to smash windows, I'm not going to start singing like a lullaby to him, right? Like, I'm going to be like, hey, like, here's a drum, let's bang it out. And slowly, I'm going to meet you where you are. Like,
yeah.
And we can work our way to where maybe you're a little more settled. You have to meet them where they are. And I think kind of just put any expectations that you may have had, just set them aside. Because I think that can limit actually.
Yeah, I forgot that. That's another thing that she said, which was set aside the expectations and just focus on constantly moving forward.
Yeah.
Yep. And everybody's goal is going to be different. I mean, we had one kid at summer camp last year, and he liked to spend most of his time in our sensory room. So he spent most of the in a different room. And near the end, he started coming in like on his own, right?
Yeah.
And when it was too overwhelming, he'd go back. But then kids would start going in and seeing him. They'd be like, well, I'm going to go read him a book. I'm going to go bring him this snack. I'm going to go check on my friend and make sure he's okay. And, you know, I was like, this is great. This is what we want in our community, right? Like kids learning to help each other.
Yeah.
So his goal was different than, say, Seth's goal in summer camp. You know,
Well, I would look forward to having you guys on in a few years to give us an update on all the amazing growth you've had. Thank you guys for being here today. Again, ckctherapies.org or .com?
.com, but I'm going to be changing to an org soon. So.
Okay, so right now the one we've been saying is .com. Go there, I'll go to the website and you can see everything. Ladies, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
And if you're listening today and you enjoyed this episode, we'd love you to rate and review the podcast and share this with other families. My goal for this podcast is you get inspired, you get a little bit of education, and most importantly, listening to this podcast becomes part of your village. This is part of your network of people you're connecting with if you're on this journey or supporting people on this journey. So we're just building one large community. Thanks everybody for listening in, and we'll see you next time.